I'm Gen X, and then there's millennials, then there's Gen Z. So you got millennials and Gen Z. And there were studies that basically sorted out investors. That was done by Bank of America, and they sorted investors based on whether you were over or under 44 years old. And on these criteria, they were able to identify some differences in terms of how younger folks invest versus, say, people above the age of 45. And I thought that it would be an interesting analysis to kind of think about this in terms of psychology, because all this is psychological. It all comes down to mindset. And as you guys know, in Money in the Morning, we basically are digging into financial psychology and the mindset of investors and what that means. Now, first thing I'm going to say before I reveal this is that it's not as if young people are investing badly, right? They just invest a little bit differently, and I also believe that the cross transfer of information across generations can be beneficial for everybody. Like I think that younger people can teach older people a few things, and I'll mention that. And then also older people can teach young people some things. And so if you're smart, you'll listen because your grandma knows a couple things. She's seen things that you haven't seen. Your grandfather knows things that you have not experienced yet. And so I know that listening to my grandma, who is the panther that's behind me, I keep my grandma with me everywhere I go. She's right here. Her name is Felicia, and she's also behind my head. My grandmother, protected me from myself on more than one occasion because when I was young, I was smart, but sometimes we think we're smarter than we actually are. So I had a little bit of knucklehead in me. I still remember my grandmother when she had bought me some savings bonds, and that was how she knew to invest. She didn't really know anything about the stuff that we talk about. Like we're far more advanced than previous generations in terms of our economic knowledge, all of us, everyone in here. And she had bought me these savings bonds when I was little, and they all matured, and I got this lump sum of money when I went off to college. And I had this girlfriend at the time, and her car broke down. And I remember I used some of that money to fix my girlfriend's car. And I never forget, my grandmother was so furious, and she wrote a long letter to me. This is back when people used to write letters. She didn't send an email or a text message. She wrote me a letter. That's how you know grandma was pissed. And she wrote me a long letter, and I don't know if she thought that I was out smoking crack or what, but she talked, she really was concerned about what I was doing with my money. And it was that experience that reminds me of why I think personally that as you're building this wealth, as you're making these smart decisions to prepare your family for their strong economic future, getting your kids ready, you're doing the $5 a day plan, or even beyond that, and really, really preparing a wealth egg or a nest egg for your kids so they can be financially safe. I don't believe in giving all that money over to them when they turn 18. I cannot reemphasize that enough. This is not their wealth. This becomes their wealth when you decide it's their wealth. And this is family wealth. You understand? We are a team. We are a collective. Just like we're gonna give we have cars right now. We have a couple cars in our garage, and it's a little bit tough because now we got four people in the house that are of driving age, and everybody's got an agenda. Both of the kids have to get to work, and me and my wife have stuff to do, so we're having a car issue, right? So we're trying to decide how to navigate that. Do we buy them a car? And I said, hell no, I don't want to just buy them a car and give them a car. I don't do that. Again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you if you've done that. I'm just saying that that's not where I come from. You earn what you get. That's it. I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I just believe that you're better off if you earn what you get. That way you can get the pride of knowing that you did this. And also, I think that spoiling kids just never seemed to work out right. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just never it never seemed to really work out when a kid was spoiled, that they would be better off than they would have been if they hadn't been spoiled. I've just not seen that. So my position on it was no, 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 we're not buying anybody a car, but we are going to buy a car. So this is, don't tell the kids. If you meet my kids at the convention or something, don't tell them that this was the master plan. Okay, we got to, like, you know how the man be making plans for black people and they don't tell you what the plans are. Well, in this house, I'm the man and she's the woman, and so we make these little secret plans. This is the conspiracy theory that we always know there's a conspiracy. Well, in our house, there are lots of conspiracy theories. This is one of them. So if you meet the kids, don't tell them this was the plan. So anyway, here's the plan. The plan was, I told my wife, I said, go out and go to the dealership, find the car that you want to get, whatever. It's just whatever you want to do, I support it. Um, and so we're gonna have three cars, and then we'll be able to allow the kids to share the third car, the 10-year-old car that we don't want to use as much anymore, but we're not giving that car to anybody. That's still our car. So this again, this is a mindset. I'm not telling you what to do, but the thinking was, look, this is not your car. This is the family car. But because we bought it, then we have a little more say in what happens with this car. So you're going to get everything that you need, but you're not going to be able to say, get out of my car or I'm taking my car. Because for you to say to have a car that you say is your car, you're going to have to put some skin in the game. You're going to have to make some investments in this process in order for you to say that is my car. Because I just, but again, that's a personal bias, right? Everybody has a bias. But I would say whatever your bias is, however you were raised, or whatever you think is best as the leader of the household, and a lot of you are either parents or you're going to be parents, or maybe your grandparents or something. I encourage you to think about the accumulation of any asset, whether it's a vehicle that's declining in financial value, right? Cars are depreciating assets, but they're important assets because you need them to get around. Or you're talking about the stock portfolio. That's family wealth. When you're building this wealth for your kids, that money belongs to primarily you. If you did it, if you're the one who built all this, then that should be yours. That's your empire that you're building. And then also, when you're talking about the transfer of that wealth onto the kids, you have to have discernment in terms of how you do that. Because if you do it wrong, let me just say, if you do it wrong, you're gonna lose it all. If you do it wrong, if you're sloppy, if you just say, oh, well, because you're a certain age and because you're my child, I'm gonna give you everything. That don't work out too well. And people react differently when you give them stuff. Again, that goes back to what I was telling you guys in finance. There's all these research papers written on what they call the moral hazard problem. The moral hazard problem basically says that when you get one of the dimensions of the moral hazard, it's a very complex idea, but one of the dimensions of it is that when you give people stuff, they start acting stupid. When you give people stuff, their behavior changes. I remember when that football player Antonio Brown that played for the Steelers and the Patriots and the Raiders. And I think the poor guy has CTE. That's what I think is really going on because he's the Negro. The Negro is crazy. But anyway, Antonio Brown, he was a great wide receiver. He was very disciplined. He worked really hard. He showed up to practice on time, and so because he was so good, they were going to sign him to this massive contract. And there was somebody who said something that was true, but there's not much you could do about it. But he basically said, when you give him all this money, he's going to act a fool. You're not going to be able to control him anymore. And he was actually right. When Antonio Brown got his money, his behavior no longer made any sense. Now, I personally think that brain damage thing is really big with the football players. So when I see them commit a crazy crime, like there was one guy, Kellen Winslow Jr., I think, who went to prison because he was literally sexually assaulting like old ladies, like 75, 80 years old. That just seems kind of weird. I'm not saying that any type of assault is okay. It's never okay, but it was just weird. It made me think something's got to be going on with his brain. And Aaron Hernandez, who played the same position as Kellen Winslow Jr., who definitely was confirmed to have tremendous amounts of brain damage, was just going to the club and killing people. Like, and it didn't make, and it was weird. They didn't even consider him a suspect because they were like, why would a guy who just won a Super Bowl murder somebody? That doesn't make, but it turned out that he had significant mental illness that came from all those hits to the head. So anyway, with that being said, though, just circling back to moral hazard, people act differently when you give them resources and you give them money. Especially true. That's especially true when you talk about your kids. So when you're talking about how to kind of deal with your children and just sort of what way to sort of distribute the assets, I think it's important to really think it through carefully because if you don't, you're going to lose everything. There's a show I've been watching. Anybody watch the show on Netflix called The Gentleman? Anybody watch it? It's got one of my favorite actors, Giancarlo Esposito, one of the best actors out here. He played Big Brother Almighty back in School Days. I don't know if y'all remember him. Everybody, if you haven't seen School Days, like remember when Biden said, "If you don't vote for me, you ain't black." If you ain't watched School Days, I'm gonna have to check your black card because that movie's a classic. We know it is. But anyway, if you're young, then that's your excuse. So go watch School Days. You'll love it. So anyway, Giancarlo Esposito is in this show called The Gentleman, and it's about this it starts with this guy who inherits this massive estate and all this wealth from his father, who was the duke of something or whatever, and they called him my your grace or my lord and all this other British crap. And anyway, one of the things that happened was the way the story starts is that you had the older brother. The oldest was supposed to inherit the estate, and this had been the tradition in the family for 600 years. And so all this wealth that had been accumulated over half a millennia of 5 to 600 years was all going to go to the oldest son. And the problem was that the oldest son is an idiot and a drug addict who makes terrible decisions. So the father skipped the oldest son and passed all the wealth down to his second son, who was the one that was the most responsible because he knew his second son wasn't going to mess up the family estate. And so this is what this whole show's about. It's all about money and choices and everything else. And all those things are deeply connected. And so as you're building your empire and preparing what to do with it, and managing risk, we've talked about risk management. I did that whole training with you guys called storm-proof investing. And we talked about diversification and the use of stock options to protect your portfolio. But the biggest protector in terms of risk is just making good decisions and then making the good decision to put your wealth in the hands of people who are going to make good decisions, who are going to who are skilled at three major things. There are three major skills that make you into a wealthy person. One is the ability to acquire wealth. Two is the ability to preserve wealth. Three is the ability to grow the wealth. So really, it's simple. I would almost call it the football player analogy. And let me explain. I like analogies because it helps us understand that I'm telling you nothing new. Everything that we talk about, you already know these things. Well, if you think about it, what makes a great football team? Well, if you have the ability to get the ball, to acquire the ball, which means you got a good defense. Your defense can get fumbles and sacks and interceptions. Two, you can protect the ball. The quarterback does not fumble. They don't make mistakes. And then you can grow your score. You can get the ball down the field because you have a great offense. If you have those three things, do you understand? Tell me if you get this analogy. If you can acquire the ball, protect the ball, and get the ball down the field, then you will win Super Bowls. So to win Super Bowls in your life, in the game of economics, the very competitive game of powernomics that exists all throughout this world, the game of capitalism, then pick up those three skills and you're going to win. And then you only give the ball to people who also have those skills, right? So if I've got a child who does not preserve wealth, then why would I give all my assets to that person who's just going to be a leaky bucket, who's going to lose everything? And this is what that whole show's about. The Gentleman. There's so many shows. If you watch, there's so many shows you watch that there are really straight economic lessons. There's so many shows you watch. Every time you watch a show where money is discussed and there's a money problem, or people are doing crazy stuff because they need to get money, that's a financial lesson. There's so many different shows I could point out on Netflix right now where money pops up everywhere in these conversations. And this is where you learn it. This is your training ground. All right, so let me dig into some of this study. This is what I kind of wanted to hit on today. And by the way, if you want to copy my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, or Financial Flashcards for Kids, we're halfway through the summer. It's not too late for you to give them something that's going to last for the rest of their life. You can go to drboycebooks.com, and there's a discount code, book club, the word book club. If you use the code book club, you can get 30% off anything in the store. So it's drboycebooks.com. Also, make sure you get on the text list for Money in the Morning. If you want to join the private Zoom for free, or get a notification. A lot of you just got a notification from me. Just text the word morning, MORNING, to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. All right. So here are a few things that are going on. Basically, a Bank of America study found that young people under the age of 44 are more likely to choose investments that differ from those that are over the age of 44. People over the age of 44 are more likely to lean on the traditional investments, top three being stocks, real estate, and then emerging markets, right? So stocks, the stock market's number one, then real estate, and then if you want to go further, maybe emerging markets, meaning like third world countries. There are funds you can invest in that will let you benefit from other countries. I made a list for you guys of funds you can invest in to make money in India, Africa. I made a list for Africa. I'll text that out to you guys again if you'd like to see it, or you can email support at theblackbusinessschool.com and they can give you access to that. I don't have it in front of me now. Either way, if that were the case, I'd give it to you now. That's kind of what people do over the age of 44, right? So, and it makes sense. The stock market is the number one wealth builder in America. Those who don't participate in the stock market don't tend to build very much wealth. Also, real estate is very, very powerful. Real estate is a great way to have literally a real asset, something you can actually touch, something that's very tangible. So shout out to everybody who owns real estate. I think real estate's fine. I don't personally enjoy being a landlord. I think I've talked to you guys about that. So I choose to make my money by selling stock options and all that to get my income. But still, real estate is fine. And then also emerging markets are nice because emerging markets can give you that excess return because you're investing in these small countries that may grow very, very quickly. Now, um, here's the thing. The truth though is that younger people, typically every generation, they do something different from what their parents did. And a lot of the decision in terms of what they choose to do is informed by their experience, right? So, a person that's under the age of 45, they've grown up with a lot of technology, so they're very comfortable with technology. Younger people tend to be more comfortable with risk because they have a longer time horizon for investment, but then also they are comfortable with risk because sometimes it's because they haven't gone through certain experiences. My grandmother went through the Great Depression, so she was very, very risk averse, very risk conscious. People like Warren Buffett, they saw the effects of the Great Depression, so they're always thinking about the downside. They're thinking about what could go wrong. Whereas if you're a young person and you've only seen the market boom, you've only seen low interest rate regimes, which is what we had going all the way back to 2010, where you could just go borrow money and amazing things will happen after that, then a person like that is more likely to take on leverage and debt and kind of just gunsling a little bit, right? Because they haven't really gone through. In fact, the last 20 years, 25 years or so, you really haven't seen too many major economic calamities. You did have the decline in 07, 08, which was pretty bad for the real estate market. But for the most part, young people haven't really gone through like some sort of like significant economic hell in terms of the stock market, in terms of watching your portfolio go, just drop 60% right before your eyes. They haven't really experienced a lot of that. So a lot of times that can lead to um, different investment behavior of young people, right? And so here's what they found in the study that young people do when it comes to investing. They said that young people they tend to allocate toward real estate at the top of the list, crypto and private equity. That was what Bank of America mentioned in particular. Real estate, crypto, and private equity, as opposed to stocks being at the top of the list. Private equity might be, in some cases, just, your own business or investing in other people's businesses or some of these websites where you can put money in and they can, like I think Fundrise does that, where you're raising money for startups and stuff like that. And what's actually driving a lot of this is that also younger people tend to have a little less patience when it comes to wealth building. They sort of, especially on social media, where there's a lot of incentive or a lot of what's the word? A lot of flashiness in terms of people showing you how much money they made and how they made it quickly. It can make someone feel stupid for doing things like getting up and going to work every day, or waiting 5 or 10 or 15 years for something great to happen. Why would you wait 15 years when you can make it happen in 15 days? And so the lure of the fast money a lot of times can drive certain investments that are extremely risky. And then also they mentioned that younger people have an interest in various kinds of collectibles like watches and classic cars and stuff like that, or even sneakers. And all that's fine, right? Again, I'm not here to tell you that those things are bad. I think that what is interesting though to me is that you should know that there's something that everybody can learn from each generation, and generally speaking, things like crypto are incredibly risky, probably riskier than people can recognize. And they said that some of the reasons that younger people are more likely to deviate toward things like crypto is a lack of trust, a lack of trust in the government. You hear a lot of people talk online about how the dollar is gonna collapse and the whole economy is gonna go to shit and everybody's gonna lose everything, or the government is manipulating you in this way or that way. And I'm not saying those things aren't true. I'm not gonna say that America. I do. I really completely agree with you that America is a country where there are conspiracy theories. There are people in the elite class that make certain decisions that affect the working class that are unfair. I've mentioned to you a few factors. For example, I think they've completely screwed a lot of people when it comes to student loans. So you have a lot of disillusioned people who say, "Wait a minute, I went into debt to go to college so I can do everything right, and here I got all this debt and I'm stuck and I'm not making the money I expected to make." Like all that's real and all that's by design. We've talked about that. But at the same time, though, I think that if this lack of trust causes you to throw the baby out with the bathwater, then that's not good for you, right? If you are just sort of like for example, if you believe that the stock market is a complete Ponzi scheme and you don't participate, well, then guess what? You're missing out on the chance to make money alongside Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, and the greatest companies on earth. And so really, I think that a balanced approach is more appropriate, where you say, yeah, they're probably doing what's best for themselves. Yeah, the elites are going to be elites. Yeah, they're probably making plans and conspiracies for them to benefit themselves. But that does not mean that I still can't participate in this economy and do well. Also, younger people tend to be more tech savvy. They're more comfortable with technology, which is why things like crypto can be appealing, as opposed to older people who don't trust crypto. I've heard older people talk about crypto like it's just fake money and it's complete garbage. And I think that that's an inappropriate approach, because typically a lot of times the people that will say things like that are people that they know a lot about investing, but they don't know a lot about crypto. You understand? Like, so they'll know a lot about stocks and real estate and business. So that gives them their credibility. But then they won't take the time to really try to understand what's really happening with crypto. Like, what is it? Like, what's really going on here? And I think that that's a little bit problematic and disingenuous. It's almost like somebody who won a Super Bowl who then tells you that tennis is crap, or a pickleball is garbage, right? So if I am a guy who won a Super Bowl, I don't know who's a guy. I'm trying to think. I can't name any Super Bowl winners right now. I don't know. Shannon Sharp. I'm Shannon Sharp, and I won a Super Bowl in football. Um, but and then pickleball comes along, and I say, well, pickleball's a stupid sport, but I know nothing about the sport. If I say pickleball will never take off, nobody likes pickleball, it's dumb. What credibility do I have to really say that? Right? If my credibility is that I won a Super Bowl, well, that's not appropriate credibility. That's not accurate in terms of that's not my area of expertise. Do you understand? So a lot of times people that criticize crypto the most, I've noticed, are people who haven't taken the time to really understand it, participate in it, invest in it. Why would you if you think it's stupid, if you think it's garbage, if you made that assessment from the very beginning? So one of the things I can say that was with crypto, in order for me to critique it, I felt like I needed to understand it. So to understand it, I read a couple books about it and did a lot of research, talked to a lot of people, looked into a lot of stuff. I'm still not an expert on it, but I know a lot more than I did. And if you were to ask me, do I think crypto is garbage? I'd say yes. And if you ask me, do I think crypto is a great investment? I would say yes. And the reason I say that is because not all crypto is created equally, and the future of crypto is very, very vague. Nobody knows what the future of crypto is going to be, because it's heavily dependent on things like regulation. It's dependent on what the economy does. If the economy were to go south, like for example, Sam Bankman-Fried. Anybody know that name? Give me a yes if you remember the name Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. Did anybody else follow the FTX debacle? Let me know if you followed this. This is really important. Okay, so Sam Bankman-Fried became kind of the king of crypto. He was a guy that was really making what I thought were some strong, solid decisions for a while. I don't think he was just a complete loose cannon wrecking ball, or a bad person the whole time. I think he did make a mistake though, and he did break the law. But what Sam Bankman-Fried did was he came along and he kind of positioned himself in the crypto world similar to where JP Morgan was in banking years ago, where he was literally the single guy who was bailing out the entire industry. He was making these big acquisitions of these companies and doing all these things that were really garnering a lot of respect around the world and everything. And it turned out, though, that he was doing it inappropriately and illegally. He was using money that he wasn't supposed to use. He had money that he was supposed to hold, and he used that money to make investments. He borrowed out. He put his hand in the cookie jar. He borrowed money that he shouldn't have been borrowing, and that was clearly illegal and clearly wrong. Um, but let me also give you the other side of that. That's interesting. So if Bankman-Fried had done the exact same thing, and it wasn't a crypto winter, he not only would he have gotten away with it, but he would still be hailed as a hero. He would be looked at as this guy who was this financial genius. Um, what a lot of people don't know is that a lot of times timing is huge in terms of when people get caught with, various Ponzi schemes. Bernie Madoff got caught because there was a recession. And when there's a recession and an economic downturn and there's fear throughout the economy, that's when the rubber meets the road. That's when people start reaching out and saying, okay, all that money you've been holding for me? I need that money by tomorrow. And if you don't have the money, like if the money is out there somewhere, if you've got it planted somewhere in an investment where the paper value, the paper loss is extreme, then you're going to pretty much get caught with your pants down. But maybe if they had called you a month later, you would have had the money. Do you understand? Right? So what happens with a Bankman Fried or a Bernie Madoff, and this is again not to excuse their behavior. I think that it was not just criminality, but it was also criminality that was driven by excessive risk taking. It's almost like someone who says, I'm going to take a risk by breaking the law. I'm going to take a risk by using money that I shouldn't be using or making a promise that I may not be able to keep. And I'm hoping that you don't ask me the wrong question at the wrong time. Do you understand? Or maybe somebody who I don't know if your wife has a boyfriend and she brings him by the house and she's hoping that you're not home, that you don't come home at the time her boyfriend's at the house, right? So basically, because if you come home, then you're going to break down the illusion. You're going to say, wait a minute, you were cheating on me, right? Whereas if you come home an hour later, you would say, my wife is wonderful and she's perfect and she's an amazing person, right? So the thing that's really um that I see with that is that crypto's future, similar to the future of a Sam Bankman-Fried, is highly dependent upon what happens with other factors that are unrelated to the quality of their ability as an investor. I don't believe at all that Sam Bankman-Fried is the only person in high finance who has done something that could be defined as illegal. One thing that does happen is that whenever there's a crash, what happens is people start going back and they start doing very detailed forensics and really looking at every little detail to see exactly what you did right. And I guarantee you that 90% of you, if somebody really put a microscope on your life and said, we're going to go through every tax return you've ever filed and verify every single thing you ever wrote off and every little thing you've ever done, they will probably find something. They will probably, there's a chance that they would find something and say, oh wait, look at this, wait, you filed a bank loan in you got a bank loan in 2017 and you said your income was 98,200 and we found out your income was only 91,400, so that that's illegal because you lied on your form, and so now we're going to prosecute and all these other things, right? So effectively, when I think about the future of crypto, I think about the Sam Bankman-Frieds in the sense that a lot of people don't even know, for example, that the investments that Bankman-Fried made with the money that he was not supposed to use. So again, I want to be 100% clear. He did break the law. He deserved, what he got, and I'm not here to defend any of that. But a lot of the investments he made with that fake money or the money he wasn't supposed to have, those investments did extremely well. Once the sky cleared and once the crypto winter ended, they had a dilemma. They said, okay, so we're claiming this guy stole people's money, but what do you do if the money is there? Like, what do you do if like, what do you do if you say, hey, you took $1 billion? That was the biggest critique, right? You stole billions of dollars from people, right? Which again, he did. But what do you do if the thief puts the money back and puts an extra $100,000 in the bank account just for good measure, right? Again, I'm not saying that he didn't break the law. Again, I keep going back to that so we don't misinterpret the discussion here. But but that's what he did, right? So it's crazy. So I don't know what Bankman did or how much he took exactly. So let's say he took $1 billion, right? And then the market crashes because what he did with the money is he took the money, he invested it in stuff, and those investments all plummeted at the same time. Right? So that crypto that he bought for $1 went down to 10 cents. So then the crypto winter ends. So then they say, oh, so you took $1 billion from people because you took the billion, you made these crappy investments, the investments sank down to zero. You're a loser. You stole this money. You're a crook. So then so while he's on trial, the crypto winter ends. That 10 cent, asset that he bought is now $1.20. And so all the money's back and then some. And they literally got to the point where they said, to our surprise, not only are we able to give every investor all their money back, we're going to give them an 18% premium on that investment. And what I want you to kind of see with this is not just timing in finance and how important that is, but also just the value of time. If in fact, for Bankman Fried, what he probably really wanted, if he could make three wishes and wish for anything on earth, one of the things he would probably wish for is just more time. Like, give me another 2 years. I promise you, it's going to work out. And time is important because Jeff Bezos, if Jeff Bezos had not been given more time, if he'd run out of time, Amazon wouldn't exist because there were times where Amazon was deep in the red. There was times where Amazon looked like a terrible investment. Bezos tells a story about how he almost had to shut the doors on the company because he needed $1 million. He said, I had to take 60 meetings to raise the $1 million. I got $50,000 per person, and I had to give away 20% of Amazon to raise that $1 million. And now Amazon's worth a couple $1 trillion. So all those people made an amazing ROI on their investment. But if they said, you know what, we don't believe in you, this is where financial psychology comes into play. This is where emotion and belief and perception matters. Perception becomes reality in the world of finance because if they just said, Jeff, we were going through your history and we found that you have a marijuana conviction from 10 years ago. So you're a felon, basically, and we don't trust you. We don't believe you. So we're not going to give you any money. Then Amazon wouldn't exist because they wouldn't have enough faith in him to give him more time. And this is one of the things that makes it hard for Black people, especially Black men, to build businesses, is because your margin of error is very thin. I wrote a whole book about this when I was on the faculty of Syracuse called What If George Bush Were a Black Man? And in this book I wrote in about 2004 was basically to kind of say that we underestimate from an economic standpoint how much your prior belief or your confidence in a person or an entity affects the ability of that entity to survive and to thrive. Do you understand how much perception makes a big difference in terms of realities, in terms of outcomes? There's a whole statistical theory on this, a whole statistical area called Bayesian analytics, Bayesian statistics, which basically says that if I already have a preconceived belief about you, if I've already got a head full of stereotypes, this is why stereotypes are so dangerous. This is why whenever you hear me yelling and screaming about the way some of these poor female rappers are just dismantling the image of the Black woman around the world in a horrible way, or why it's not cool that Black men are typecast as athletes, comedians, and rappers. Well, the reason that these stereotypes are important is because if people come up to you and they already see you in a certain way, that's going to impact their belief in whether or not they should invest in you. I'm not going to invest in you if I think that you're an idiot, a thug, a criminal, or a loser. I'm not. And it's my decision to invest in you, society's decision to invest in you, that directly impacts your probability of success. So when I tell you all that 80% of Black owned businesses fail, the reason 80% of Black owned businesses fail is partly driven by the fact that nobody has faith in Black people. Nobody believes that Black man's going to be smart enough to do what Jeff Bezos did. If he ain't got the million, ain't nobody going to give him the million. They're going to say, oh, well, yeah, he's a Black guy. And those Black guys, all they do is make babies and rap and play basketball and whatever, right? They go to the strip club. They don't sit in the office and grind 14 hours a day to do what's necessary to make a company successful. They're loud and flashy. And if we were investing in him to go and become the next P. Diddy, we'd invest in that. But we're not going to invest in him trying to become the next Jeff Bezos because Black guys just don't do that. So these perceptions and these stereotypes are incredibly important. And so to circle back, when we were talking about crypto a little while ago, you'll know me, I always circle back. I know I might take you around the world, but I promise I'll bring you back. Um, the perception of crypto is incredibly important in terms of the probability of success in crypto. A lot of times when media creates fear, uncertainty, and doubt, they call that FUD. What that does is that directly reduces the value of the asset because things exist when you want them to exist. It reminds me of how they had that Cinco de Mayo holiday and they said that your ancestors are only alive for as long as you remember them. Or when Peter Pan was talking to Tinkerbell, and Tinkerbell, they asked Tinkerbell, "Do fairies exist?" And she said, "They exist if you believe in them." So the question is crypto going to be successful or is crypto going to fail? Well, crypto will be successful if we believe in crypto. If we all collectively believe in it, then we'll all collectively invest in it. If we all collectively invest in it, then it's going to be successful. But the question then becomes what's going to happen? How's the public going to feel? And how are the regulators going to react to that? If the regulators come in and create laws that undermine the growth of crypto and then create enough fear, uncertainty, and doubt that people don't want to invest in crypto, then crypto will ultimately fail. That will be a bad investment. And so, one of the beliefs that I have, if you're talking about safe investing, is I don't think you should have more than 7% of your portfolio in crypto. This is not investing advice. This is just my opinion. This is my belief. But I think that if you have more than 7%, definitely more than 10% of your portfolio in crypto, you're taking an unnecessary amount of risk. And I encourage anybody do all the alternative stuff. I mean, all these other things are a lot of fun. The private, I think investing should be fun. I think investing in things that you love, it adds an extra layer of joy that comes with investing. It does not have to be boring like watching grass grow. It's not just about the money, it's about quality of life. But at the same time, don't walk past the stock market. Don't walk past the wisdom that your grandfather has just because you want to be new and cool. Just because something's new does not mean it's better. People talk about progressive and futuristic and moving forward as if it's always good. No, sometimes you move forward into a place that is worse than where you were before. Just look at integration. That was so advanced and so forward thinking and so futuristic for black people, and it only made our situation worse. It made us worse in terms of education. It made us worse in terms of economics. It made us worse in terms of family structure. So stop thinking that everything that's new is better. Sometimes new ain't better. And stop disrespecting the wisdom of your elders. Your elders know they know some shit, and you need to listen. You need to listen. And then at least you can move forward without making the same mistake that somebody else made 60 years earlier because you don't even know your history. You have to know the history. You have to know. You got to hear the stories from your grandmother and grandfather so you can make informed choices. And so to me, because I go through this sometimes where I'll have people say, Dr. Boyce, we want you to connect more with the youth and we want you to, and I'm like, yeah, well, I do connect with the youth. I mentor a lot of people. I have young guys I meet with every single day of the week and I work with them and I learn from them a lot. But damn it, you're gonna learn from me too. Like I'm not going to just like again, it's an interesting, it's got to be an ecosystem in terms of the relationship that older people have with the youth. It has to be an ecosystem. You learn from me and I learn from you. It cannot be just you following me because then you're not able to express your creativity and your originality. I get that. But then it can't just be me following you, where I am 53 years old doing TikTok dances because the shit's popular. I'm not doing things because they're popular. I'm not one of your little friends. I'm not trying to be that. I'm not trying to be a 53-year-old who's acting like a 25-year-old because that's not going to work. That's me literally discounting 30 extra years of wisdom that I've accumulated and putting that all to the side because it ain't hip and it ain't cool and the rappers don't like it. I don't give a damn about that. We got to make each other better. We have to make each other better. So I would say for sure, based on if you want a conclusion from today's conversation, every young person needs to be invested. Every single young person who wants to have money, you better invest. Stop thinking that job ain't going to do it for you. That is not going to give you financial security. That's not going to put you where you want to be. You have to invest in something. You have to sacrifice for the future if you want to have a future. Secondly, when you talk about investing, there are basic rules you can follow. Diversification is really important. Never get so enamored with one investment or one stock or one thing that you end up putting everything you have into one space. You have these stories where I saw an NFL player who said he wanted to get his whole paycheck in Bitcoin, and I said, why would you do that? That's the craziest thing in the world. I'm sure it might work out for you, but even if it works out, it's still a stupid decision because it might have not worked out, and Bitcoin could collapse, and the next thing you know, you've got this worthless amount of money that's coming into your paycheck. That's not very wise. So what you do is you say, okay, I'm going to participate, but I'm not going to dump my whole economic body into that and what gives you the wisdom to know that that's not the right move is you want to hear those stories about people who did exactly what you're doing, who lost everything. When you're investing, you really don't want to be in a position where you're going to lose everything if something goes wrong. You want to be diversified. That's really important. And then also just being consistent and making investing part of your culture. That's how people win. That's how people succeed. So anyway, these are some thoughts that I had on this topic. I think also from an economic consciousness standpoint, another important thing that I know I did not understand when I was young, but I understand it better as I get older, is that this too shall pass. Sometimes we can get so caught up in a moment where, like you ever see pictures of somebody like from the 70s where literally the dude in the picture was like the coolest, hippest guy in 1974. Like he literally, maybe he looked like Bootsy Collins or something from I don't know, it wasn't Earth, Wind and Fire. It was the P-Funk. You ever see those P-Funk dudes and how they dressed? Like, let me find a pic. I gotta find a picture. It was the craziest thing. Let me see if I can find. Hold on. Let me see. All right. Um, Let me see if I can find one. And just so you know, I love P Funk, and I also love the greatest group of all time was Earth, Wind and Fire. Like Earth, Wind and Fire is the greatest. I met the guy who was one of the guys from Earth, Wind and Fire, the one that played the guitar, that had the big hair. I met him in Los Angeles, and I was going up to get his autograph, and it was kind of cool. Like he was signing all these autographs with all these people, and he saw me in the crowd, and he just stopped, and he said, brother, he said, I watch you every day. And that was kind of cool. That was like my clout moment because all the Hollywood people were like, "Who is this guy? Why is he paying attention to him?" But so I'm kind of like an acquired taste. Some people love what I do. Some people don't know who the hell I am and don't care, and I don't blame them. All right, so here's so if you look at like a picture like this, right? To me, when I see like a P-Funkish kind of picture, or I see like the Funkadelic or whatever, or I see my dad's old pictures where he's got the big hat and the fur coat like stuff that looked really cool in the 70s. I wonder if they would how they felt taking that picture, right? Like in the moment, everything that you're doing is completely lit. Everything you're doing in the moment is hip and cool, and you're the coolest guy on the block. But if you look at that same picture 20 years later, it looks crazy. You look ridiculous, right? And at that point you can only laugh at yourself. You don't take yourself nearly as seriously as you did when you took that picture. And I kind of think about that when it comes to what's trendy with investing. A lot of times I think when we're young, we get caught in a trend, and you think that that trend is going to last forever. Like you really think that what you're doing right now is going to be the best move for you forever. Like literally I'm overcommitting to the moment. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I want to kind of, and I think that overcommitment to the moment is a type of immaturity that we grow out of. And that's it's important to do that because sometimes overcommitting to the moment, for example, can cause somebody to when someone takes their life, like a 17-year-old takes his life because his girlfriend broke up with him. That's overcommitting to the moment because he doesn't realize that he's got the rest of his life to live. And 5 years from now, he won't even care about this girl anymore. But in that moment, it seems like that moment is forever. That moment's going to last a lifetime. I feel the same way about when my mother was pregnant with me when she was 17. They told her, well, it'll be easy for you if you just terminate the pregnancy. And my mother was like, no, this baby's going to grow up. He's got a whole life ahead of him. It's going to get better. And I'm glad she had that perspective because it did. It got better. The financial challenges she had lasted about 2 more years. She married my father when I was 3. Things got better. And now my mother and I have had 50 something years of a wonderful life. I paid her house off. I'm here for her. She benefits in a million ways because I'm here. But if she had only been trapped in the moment, she would have never had any of that. The whole 50 something years of our existence together would disappear. Do you understand? So a lot of times I think that with financial consciousness, one aspect of consciousness is knowing that there's more to your life than what's in front of you. That's my point, right? There's more to life than what you're seeing right now in this particular place. There's a big gigantic world and there's a long time series such that everything that's happening, most things that are happening are eventually going to pass and it's going to become the past. So in fact, maybe a good consciousness exercise as an investor is to try to imagine the year 2030. Like try to meditate and imagine it right now. And then think about how you kind of look at the year 2030, right? It seems like it's futuristic, it's way off out there. Nobody's really talking about 2030 in the year 2024. Nobody's talking about 2035, right? But if you go out to 2030, what's interesting to me is that 2030 is to 2024 what 2024 was to 2018. Do you see? And 2018 was just yesterday. Most of you probably remember 2018 like it just happened. And so imagine if think about this. Imagine if in 2018 you'd invested to prepare for 2024. Like imagine in 2018 if you just made a series of investments in Bitcoin and different stocks, Apple, Nvidia, whatever, and you just consistently invested that money and you said I'm preparing for the year 2024. I'm going to be in really I'm struggling now, but I'm going to be in good shape by the year 2024. And let's say you committed to that and you were consistent and you did what you were supposed to do. Think about where you would be. You'd be in an amazing place. But here's the thing. Here's the problem. Here's the trick. This is the mind trick. It's crazy how this happens to all of us. In 2018, we weren't thinking about 2024 like that. 2024 was the future, right? And the future is always like this ambiguous place that we're never going to arrive to, but we always get there every time. Every time. I assume a lot of you are old enough to remember. Do y'all any of y'all remember when even the year 2000 seemed like it was way off in the future? Like it was never gonna arrive. Like Prince was singing about how he's partying like it's 1999. And and it's crazy to me. It's like, holy shit, like 2000 is a long time ago now. Like that's ancient history. Some of you in here were born maybe after the year 2000. And so time is a sneaky little bastard. It's so sneaky. And but the thing is if you can really gain a connection to it and become very conscious of it and really feel it and flow with it and really respect it and accept it and don't waste it, that's one of your keys to wealth. I've told you all again, as a finance professor, we got to do equations and math. Everything we do is mathematical. The whole language is mathematics. When we've put together these equations that help us figure out wealth and how wealth grows, time is the number one variable in those equations. If you pour enough time into damn near anything that you're doing, you can get to whatever destination you want to get to. If I want to walk from New York to LA and I'm walking 1 inch per hour, walking incredibly slow, but I'm consistently walking from New York toward LA. If I give myself enough time, I can go from New York to LA, back to New York, back to LA, back to New York, back to LA, back to New York, back to LA. Do you understand? Time is the key. Time is the key. And where people lose wealth, in my opinion, is they waste time. You waste time. You give up on yourself. You say, "Oh, I'm broke right now. I'm gonna be broke forever." So then you start wasting time. And then next thing you know, you broke in 2015, you broke in 2016, you broke in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. Instead of realizing that if I harness the power of time and then just pivot a little bit and do something a little bit different, and I do that little pivot, I commit to that new set of actions and I do it across enough time, then eventually I'm going to be at whatever destination I'm trying to get to. Do you understand? So don't waste time. Like time is wealth, time is power. Time gives you the keys to the universe, in my opinion. So sit back one day and just meditate and imagine the year 2030 and just say, what am I going to do with this time? And then also time is a blessing and a gift. We're going to run out of time. We're running out of time right now. We have less time now than we had at the beginning of this conversation. What are you going to do with the rest of the time that you have? And when I say this, I really mean this. I'm serious about this to the point that it's almost like religious for me. Every year on New Year's, when I get a little bit sad about the fact that another year has gone by, it's a sadness sometimes, but a happiness too, an opportunity, but a sadness, right? You know what I do? I sit down and I budget my time for the year. I have there's 8,760 hours in a year. We're awake for about maybe 5,000 of those hours, and I will budget that time the same way you budget money. I budget time more than I budget money. My time is more valuable than my money. It's easy, and in fact, even when you get more money, it becomes more deliberate, more intentional. It becomes more apparent because there are people that I can give money to because I've got a little bit of money. But when I give you my time, oh, that means that whatever we're doing better be damn important. Do you understand? So process your time. Your time is that is your gift, that is your wealth. Use it appropriately and invest it properly, and that is what you will get you where you want to be. All right. So anyway, that's it. I hope it wasn't too preachy. I hope that you gained something from this conversation, and also I hope that your investing journey is going well. We're going to be back tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, every single morning. We do this Money in the Morning Economic Elevation Financial Consciousness Training. If you want to get notified when we meet, get on the text list. Just pull out your phone, text the word morning, MORNING, to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. Also, if you live out of the country, I know some of you are out of the country, you can't get on the text list if you're out of the country. So just go to drboyceelevate.com. That's drboyceelevate.com. All right, guys. So thank you so much for your time. It was great to see you. I hope you have a wonderful day, and let's not waste no time.